Martial arts master Lin Chen brought a mysterious small cauldron to a different world and became an outer disciple of the Tianji Sect. Watching him step by step reach the pinnacle, he eventually became a Peerless Sword God. Novel keywords. Peerless Sword God without pop-ups, Peerless Sword God TXT Complete Collection Download, Peerless Sword God Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Crossing the Outer Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Crossing the Outer Realm in a Small Wooden House. Hiss. Lin Chen took a deep breath of air and felt a severe pain in his head, as if he had just been hit with a heavy stick. He wanted to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt as heavy as a mountain. What's going on? Although I was practicing boxing just now, did someone secretly attack me? Suddenly, a large amount of complex and chaotic memories flooded out from the depths of his mind. Lin Chen was slightly dazed, and his mind was like a tangled paste, feeling extremely dizzy. Having practiced martial arts for over 20 years, Lin Chen has developed an incredibly strong will. Otherwise, in such intense pain and chaos, an ordinary person would have been unable to bear it and would have fainted. It feels like several decades have passed, and it seems like only a moment has passed. The memory in Lin Chen's mind slowly calms down. Lin Chen felt the sudden surge of memories in his mind, feeling somewhat incredulous. He had traveled from modern society to another world. Unexpectedly, this guy is also called Lin Chen. Lin Chen was surprised in his heart. This is a world where martial arts are revered. My predecessor, relying on family relationships, entered one of the largest sects in the Yannan domain, the Tianji Sect, and became an outsider disciple, diligently practicing every day. Unfortunately, Lin Chen, his predecessor, had an average talent in martial arts. He started practicing from the age of 6 to the age of 15, a total of 9 years, only from the initial stage of the first stage of the cultivation realm to the later stage of the fourth stage of the cultivation realm. Although his talent was mediocre, Lin Chen did not give up or slack off at all, especially after more than a year of joining the Tianji Sect. He practiced even harder and was determined to be promoted to an inner disciple, climbing the path of higher martial arts. 3 days ago, when Lin Chen was receiving 2 bottles of Peiyuan liquid distributed by the sect to external disciples every month, he encountered a group of bullying disciples and asked Lin Chen to hand over 1 bottle of Peiyuan liquid. Lin Chen was unwilling to hand over Peiyuan liquid and had a dispute with the other party. Originally, Lin Chen's strength was relatively low among the disciples of the outer sect, let alone the large number of opponents. In the end, he dragged his seriously injured body back to his residence and took healing medicine. 3 days passed, and Lin Chen's external injury was not a big deal. He just received a heavy stick on his head and remained unconscious. In the end, for some unknown reason, the modern Lin Chen came here and occupied this body. After sorting out his memory, Lin Chen shook his head slightly and said, "My predecessor was also a tough guy, just a bit cliché. Don't worry, I will definitely avenge you." As soon as he finished speaking, a strand of memory deep in his mind caught his attention. He felt it carefully, and Lin Chen's eyebrows couldn't help but furrow. According to family regulations, those who have not yet become inner disciples before the age of 17 must return to the family to manage their business. Lin Chen frowned even deeper. Lin Chen's predecessor was the illegitimate son of the Zhao family head, one of the 3 major families in Lingwu City. Although his talent and aptitude were average, his father still used connections to send him to the Tianji Sect. The outstanding talents among the younger generation of the family have also joined various major sects in the Yannan region. In Lin Chen's memory, Zhao Xiong and Zhao Shui, who had the best qualifications, respectively joined the Pure Yang Gate and Sanglong Valley in the Yannan domain. When they met at the annual festival 6 months ago, they were already in the 8th level of the initial cultivation in the refining realm, which was many times stronger than Lin Chen. With their qualifications, it is easy to become an inner disciple, but Lin Chen is not. His talents and qualifications are all average. Although he works hard and trains hard, the requirements for inner disciples of the Tianji Sect are quite high. It is not an easy task for Lin Chen to be promoted to an inner disciple before the age of 17. There are countless disciples of Tianji Sect, but if an outer disciple wants to become an inner disciple, there is only one way to reach the Tiangang realm before the age of 20, and to break through the Tianluo Mountain's secret realm. If successful, you will enter the inner gate. If unsuccessful, you will have to wait for the next Tianluo Mountain secret realm to open. It's just that the Tianluo Mountain secret realm is not something you can break through if you want. Outsiders under the age of 16 need 500 contribution points to exchange for a chance to break through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. Those over 16 need 1,000 contribution points. After 17, for every 1 year increase in age, an additional 500 contribution points are required. Lin Chen's predecessor joined the Tianji Sect for a year and a half, and every day, in addition to necessary cultivation, he was trying to earn contribution points. So far, he has only raised 133 contribution points, which is 3,617 points short of the 500 contribution points needed to exchange for a chance to enter the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. Lin Chen was originally quite honest in handing over a bottle of Peiyuan liquid. The reason why he refused to give it to those people this time was because he was about to turn 16. If he couldn't earn 500 contribution points this year, he would need a full 1,000 contribution points next year to exchange for the opportunity to break through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. So he wants to take 2 bottles of Peiyuan liquid to improve his cultivation, earn more contribution points, and have the opportunity to explore the Tianluo Mountain secret realm this year. Lin Chen integrated the memories of his predecessor and naturally understood his thoughts. Although Lin Chen has average talent, he is very obsessed with martial arts. After entering the Tianji Sect, he devoted himself wholeheartedly to practicing hard, hoping to be promoted to an inner disciple and pursue a stronger path in martial arts. Unexpectedly, this guy's personality is somewhat similar to mine. In his past life, Lin Chen was a renowned young martial arts master in the land of China, a master of internal martial arts. His obsession with martial arts brought him to a peak, but he had no chance of breaking through. At this moment, in a world where martial arts are paramount, how can Lin Chen not be excited? Only in this kind of place can he showcase his skills. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Mysterious Cauldron. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Mysterious Cauldron. In the Tianji Sect, one can wholeheartedly pursue martial arts. When returning to the family to manage business, one has to deal with various tedious matters, which is definitely not conducive to cultivation. More importantly, the Tianji Sect is still located on a spiritual vein, with extremely rich spiritual energy from heaven and earth, making cultivation twice the result with half the effort. However, there are few places outside where this spiritual energy is extremely strong. Although Lin Chen is not yet 17 years old, there are only 2 years left. If he does not have the opportunity to explore the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain this year, the difficulty of next year will be even greater. If you haven't succeeded for 2 years, then you can only follow the family's arrangement and become a minor deacon outside the family. However, pursuing martial arts will become very difficult. In the past, Lin Chen was unwilling to accept this situation, and now Lin Chen does not want to see it. It seems that the top priority is to earn 500 contribution points as soon as possible, Lin Chen said to himself. My predecessor spent a year and a half, raising less than 150 contribution points. It was he who risked his life to enter the Maoyan Mountains to hunt monsters and earn it. To quickly raise enough contribution points, the only way is to go to the sect to collect tasks, enter the Maoyan Mountains to hunt high-level monsters. There are still 3 months left until I break through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm, which means that in the next 3 months, I must improve my strength as soon as possible, hunt high-level monsters to obtain contribution points, and then break through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. Thinking about this, Lin Chen took a deep breath, his eyes slightly excited. In his past life, he had been practicing martial arts for more than 20 years, constantly pondering how to cultivate the true qi in his body. However, the spiritual energy in heaven and earth was thin, making it unsuitable for cultivating true qi and unable to break through the peak of martial arts. And in the heavenly spirit continent, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is countless times stronger than in previous lives, so powerful that there are countless techniques for turning hands into clouds and moving mountains and filling the sea. In the previous life, I was able to become a martial arts master in the sparsely spiritual land of China. In this life, the spiritual energy of the heavenly spirit continent is abundant, so I can also become the pinnacle of the heavenly spirit continent. Lin Chen's eyes sparkled with confidence, shining brightly. He closed his eyes slightly and felt the strands of true energy within the dantian, feeling extremely excited inside. However, at this moment, a buzzing sound suddenly came from his head, causing him to feel a bit dazed for a moment. Lin Chen closed his eyes and looked inside. In the depths of his mind, a golden three-legged small cauldron floated in the air, emitting a faint mist that slowly spread and enveloped the entire brain, as if the world was covered by the mist. How could this little tripod be in my mind? Looking at the small tripod in his mind, Lin Chen was extremely surprised. The small cauldron floating in Lin Chen's mind is not unfamiliar to him. It is a personal accessory he wore in his past life, and it is an ancestral item. When Lin Chen practiced boxing, wearing this small cauldron had the effect of calming the mind. However, why did this small tripod blend into my mind as I traveled through time and space? The mist diffuses more and more, becoming more and more mellow. After a moment, it is gradually absorbed by the brain domain, and every minute it is absorbed, the brain domain expands slightly. Lin Chen opened his eyes and felt refreshed for a moment. His eyes were like stars, everything in front of him became clearer, and his ears became more intelligent. Even the subtle sounds that were far apart could be heard as clearly as if they were close to his ear. My mind has changed its previous confusion, becoming more agile, incredibly lively, and my perception has become more acute. This little tripod seems to be very helpful to me. The history of these three-legged tripods is not clear to Lin Chen in his past life. It is unknown which generation they have been passed down from their ancestors and have been passed down to him all along. Because they are very helpful for practicing martial arts, Lin Chen has always worn them close to his body. At this moment, the mist emanating from the three-legged tripod is nourishing Lin Chen's brain, and the benefits it brings are indescribable. After pondering for a while, Lin Chen still couldn't figure out what was going on. He decided not to think anymore, got out of bed, washed himself up, and brought his sword to the yard. 3 months later, I will be entering the Tianluo Mountain secret realm, and I must improve my strength as soon as possible. In Lin Chen's memory, there are many levels of martial arts, among which the body refining stage is the best time to lay a foundation. It is divided into 9 levels. 1 level for refining skin, 2 levels for refining meat, 3 levels for refining tendons, 4 levels for refining bones, 5 levels for refining marrow, 6 levels for refining blood, 7 levels for refining organs, 8 levels for refining essence, and 9 levels for refining qi. After refining the body realm, it becomes the heavenly gang realm. In the courtyard, Lin Chen stood with a sword and muttered to himself, "My predecessor, after entering the Tianji Sect, has been practicing the 7-star chain sword and has learned the 1st to 6th moves. However, he got stuck on the 7th move and has never been able to complete it. This 7-star chain sword is divided into 7 forms. The 7-form sword moves are used continuously, and when practiced to perfection, they can release a sword energy of meters in length, which is incredibly powerful. In my memory, there was once a disciple who relied on the powerful sword energy released by the 7-star chain sword to defeat people who had 2 lower levels of cultivation. And the reason why my predecessor joined the Tianji Sect and practiced this 7-star chain sword is because he wanted to master this 7-star chain sword and then break through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm." Lin Chen shook his head slightly and said, "Most of the disciples who venture into the Tianluo Mountain secret realm are external disciples in the 8th and 9th levels of the body refining realm. With this 7-star chain sword, they may not be enough to deal with it. Lin Chen closed his eyes, and the mental diagram of using the 7-star chain sword flashed through his mind. After a moment, his eyes suddenly opened, and the refined steel sword in his hand was stabbed diagonally. The first move of using the 7-star chain sword was different from the previous obscure and clumsy movements. This time, the movements were light and agile, giving a feeling of natural perfection. It's like a natural outcome. Shoo! A fallen leaf brushed past and was split in half by a precision steel sword, making a faint sound. Lin Chen seemed to have never heard of it, still wielding the 7-star chain sword. The first equation, the second equation, the third equation. The sixth equation, the seventh equation. Gradually, Lin Chen's 7-star chain sword broke free from its constraints, and its movements became faster and more flexible, as if he knew this swordsmanship well and had practiced it hundreds or even thousands of times. When the 7-star chain sword was used in the seventh move, a sword aura nearly 1 meter long rushed out of the refined steel sword and struck a huge stone weighing hundreds of pounds. Boom! The boulder exploded in response. Surprisingly, it has been practiced. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Bullying People with Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Bullying People with Power. As Lin Chen stood with his sword drawn, a hint of joy flashed in his eyes, and he was also somewhat incredulous. I only practiced the seventh move of the 7-star chain sword that my predecessor had never been able to practice. How could I have so easily mastered it? Without much thought, Lin Chen practiced again and became more proficient in his sword moves, flowing smoothly. However, he did not notice that while practicing the 7-star chain sword, his body suddenly heated up, and the spiritual energy around him seemed to have found a vent, crazily penetrating into his body. Pop pop pop. A sound like stir-fried beans sounded, awakening Lin Chen, who was immersed in practicing swordsmanship. The fourth peak of the cultivation realm has also been surpassed. Lin Chen was stunned for a moment, and then he was overjoyed. While he was practicing swordsmanship, his cultivation unexpectedly broke through from the later stage of the fourth peak of the cultivation realm to the fourth peak of the cultivation realm. Normally, it would take at least 5 or 6 weeks for him to increase his cultivation level by 1 level. Even if using Peiyuan liquid, Lingyuan pills, and other aids to cultivate pills, it takes 3 to 4 weeks to possibly increase 1 level of cultivation. This time, Lin Chen was practicing swordsmanship and easily broke through his cultivation. Compared to before, his cultivation speed was countless times faster. Lin Chen took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and closed his eyes to look inside. However, he saw that the true qi in his dantian, which was originally only strands, had increased significantly. More importantly, his breath was stable, unlike that of ordinary martial artists, who still needed stability after breaking through their cultivation. The muscles and bones throughout the body are incredibly hard, reaching the limit of bone refining. The fourth level of body refining and bone refining has been completed, and the next step is to advance to the fifth level, the realm of refining marrow. However, my cultivation has just broken through, so it is not advisable to practice forcibly, otherwise it will not only be beneficial to my body but also harmful. Lin Chen opened his eyes and pondered for a moment, then with a faint smile on his face, he muttered to himself, "You can't cultivate true qi, but you can still cultivate martial arts." Just now when practicing the 7-star chain sword, I easily broke through the bottleneck and mastered the 7th move. The sword energy I unleashed can burst open a 100-pound boulder. If I remember correctly, there are still many powerful martial arts skills in the library of Jizong's outer gate that day. I will go and take a look now, maybe I will gain some rewards. Thinking of this, Lin Chen couldn't help but feel a little itchy and impatient. After hastily having lunch, he grabbed his sword and eagerly headed towards the library halfway up the mountain. The library is located halfway up the mountain, in a verdant area. At the entrance of the library, there is a surge of people. Some have selected the secret books from the library, while others are about to go to the library to borrow them, like Lin Chen. Lin Chen glanced excitedly at the towering and massive library attic, and was about to enter when a cold voice came from behind him. Lin Chen, please stop me. Lin Chen was slightly stunned, stopped to look, and saw 3 young people walking out of the path beside him. The first young man was staring at Lin Chen, with a gloomy expression between his eyebrows. You actually broke through. In just this moment, the 3 young men of Yin and Ji came to Lin Chen. They felt Lin Chen's breath and were immediately taken aback. This kid was clearly in the 4th stage of the cultivation realm 3 days ago, but today it has become the 4th peak of the cultivation realm. The 3 of them looked at each other. You should know that Lin Chen was in the late stage of the 4th level of the advanced cultivation realm after a month. In just 1 month, he was able to stabilize his cultivation, but unexpectedly, he broke through and reached the peak of the 4th level of the cultivation realm. Humph, it's just a lucky breakthrough. With his talent, even if he breaks through in cultivation, his strength won't be much stronger. The Yinji youth felt quite displeased when he saw Lin Chen's indifferent expression and snorted coldly, Lin Chen, you should know why we came to see you today. I don't have time to argue with you here. Lin Chen's eyes turned cold, but he quickly regained his composure and said with a calm expression. I'm not interested in knowing what you're looking for me for. All I know is that a good dog won't get in the way. You can get out of my way now, and I can forgive you once. If Lin Chen remembers correctly, the 3 Yinji young men were the ones who injured their predecessors a few days ago and stole Pei Yuan liquid. The name of the Yinji youth is Li Chuan, and the other 2 are his 2 outer disciples who follow him. In his memory, Li Chuan relied on his older brother, who was a disciple of the inner sect, to support him and often plundered the Pei Yuan liquid of some disciples of the outer sect who had no background or influence. If anyone dared not hand over the Pei Yuan liquid, they would be beaten up and even compensated twice afterwards. This time, Li Chuan blocked his way and must have come to collect compensation. However, Lin Chen in the past dared to refuse, let alone Lin Chen now. Upon hearing Lin Chen's words, Li Chuan and his 3 companions were immediately furious. The 2 attendants were even more furious and wanted to come forward and teach Lin Chen a lesson, but Li Chuan stopped them. He took a deep breath and said with a hint of anger and a smile, I never expected that after 3 days of farewell, I would be impressed. Lin Chen, you really have some skills to challenge me. Coincidentally, your cultivation has broken through. Today, I, Li Chuan, will compete with you. If you resist my 3 moves, I will not trouble you again in the future. But if you don't resist, kneel down and beg for mercy. I will honestly hand over the Pei Yuan liquid in the future, not just 1 bottle, but 2 bottles. Li Chuan looked at Lin Chen jokingly. His cultivation level was already 2 levels higher than Lin Chen, and he was in the middle of the 5th level of the body refining realm. He had just completed his bone-breaking claw cultivation. Not to mention the 3 moves, he was confident that he could defeat Lin Chen with just 1 move. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. 7-Star Chain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 7-Star Chain. Lin Chen glanced at Li Chuan and sneered, the pill given to me by the sect was originally mine. You're a few years old, why should I give it to you? Also, I'll say it again, disappear from my face immediately now, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Okay. Li Chuan was furious and his face turned extremely pale. Kid, you have successfully angered me. If I don't lay you in bed for 3 months today, I will write your name upside down. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Li Chuan's body move and he took a step forward, grabbing Lin Chen with his hands suddenly in claws. It's bone-breaking claw. Yellow level mid-level martial arts skill. One of Li Chuan's followers exclaimed excitedly, Lin Chen, you're miserable. Lin Chen withdrew and frowned, since you're looking for your own way, I'll give you a ride. Although the opponent's cultivation is higher than Lin Chen, Lin Chen was a martial arts master in his previous life and had no fear of facing Li Chuan. Choke. The sword has been unsheathed. What's going on? Li Chuan immediately felt something was wrong. The moment Lin Chen drew his sword, the aura emanating from it gave Li Chuan a sense of oppression that he had never experienced before. Seeing Li Chuan stunned, Lin Chen said calmly, "If you know you're scared, just move away from me. I don't have time to waste with you here. You want to die." Li Chuan was furious and roared, leaning forward with one claw from bottom to top and the other from bottom to top, fiercely grabbing Lin Chen in a direction that ordinary people could not achieve. Li Chuan's broken bone claw unleashed a tiger-like aura, and a fierce wind rose up. If it were other disciples, they would inevitably be unable to resist Li Chuan's attack, and even be knocked down to the ground with one claw, potentially causing serious injuries on the spot. Unfortunately, he encountered Lin Chen. Just as Li Chuan's claws were about to attack Lin Chen's body moved, and a flash of white light flashed through his refined steel sword. A nearly 1 meter long sword aura shot out from the sword, accompanied by a fierce attack on Li Chuan. It's exactly the 7th move of the 7-star chain sword that Lin Chen just learned. Bang! Ah! The scream sounded, and Li Chuan's chest was covered in a long bloodstain. His body flew backwards and collided with a nearby stone step, spewing out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. The two attendants of Li Chuan on the side were stunned and looked at Lin Chen with disbelief. What kind of martial arts skill did Lin Chen use? Surprisingly, he hit Fei Chuangu with one move. In a moment of confusion, the two of them forgot to help Li Chuan. No wonder they were like this. Lin Chen, in their impression, has always been of average aptitude and strength, but also extremely hardworking in cultivation. Not to mention defeating a disciple in the 5th stage of the cultivation realm, even a disciple of the same level and cultivation may not necessarily win. At this moment, Lin Chen only used one move to knock Li Chuan, whose cultivation was 2 levels higher than him, away. Ignoring the surprise of these two people, Lin Chen raised his hand and with a choking sound, the refined steel sword was inserted into the scabbard. The crisp voice immediately woke up the second attendant from shock. The two of them looked at Lin Chen in fear and quickly came to Li Chuan's side, helping him up. "Bastard! Lin Chen, you despicable little person, dare to ambush me." Li Chuan, who was gasping for breath, was just lifted up and immediately cursed and spoke, his face extremely angry. In his opinion, if it weren't for Lin Chen's sudden attack on him, how could he have been knocked away by a disciple with lower cultivation than himself? "And you two idiots." Li Chuan was even more infuriated when he saw the two attendants next to him looking frightened at Lin Chen. He yelled softly, "Why don't you go and give him a break?" Li Chuan clenched his teeth and grinned again, his long sword scars and flesh rolling around his chest, causing immense pain. It seemed that he would not be able to recover for a while, which made his anger even stronger. "Brother Chuan, that kid's cultivation is 2 levels lower than yours, but you're not his opponent. In my opinion, we should go back and find senior brother Li Shan, and then come find him to deal with." One of them advised with some fear after hearing Li Chuan's words. However, before he could say his last word, he was interrupted by Li Chuan's roar. "Get out of here!" Li Chuan's angry lips trembled. The two of them stirred up their spirits together, but Roa reluctantly walked towards Lin Chen. Regardless of whether Li Chuan gang was careless or not, he was ultimately defeated by Lin Chen, especially since Lin Chen was 2 levels lower than Li Chuan's cultivation. If he could defeat someone who was 2 levels higher than himself, his actual strength would not be much lower. And the two of them, whose cultivation was only in the early stage of the 5th level of the cultivation realm, were not half as strong as Li Chuan. How could they be Lin Chen's opponents? Lin Chen snorted coldly and looked over with cold eyes as he saw the two attendants walking over. The two of them trembled and their hearts lifted, fearing that Lin Chen would suddenly draw his sword and release the eerie yet powerful sword energy towards them. For a moment, there was a strong smell of gunpowder on the field, and the atmosphere was solemn, as if a fight would start in the next moment. However, at this moment, an old man wearing a white Taoist robe suddenly walked out of the library and looked at Lin Chen and the others with an ugly expression. "Dare to fight with each other at the entrance of the library, how brave you are." Li Chuan and his companions turned their heads to look at the old man in the white Taoist robe, and their faces suddenly changed. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Sword rushes into the clouds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Sword rushes into the clouds. What a powerful aura. I don't know what level of cultivation this old man has reached. Lin Chen glanced at the old man in the white Taoist robe and felt a chill in his heart. If I were to confront him now, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the strength to fight back. Li Chuan's two attendants saw the appearance of the old man in a white robe, and their faces changed. At the same time, they also breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts, and their faces relaxed a lot. The old man in the white robe is the guardian of the library, with profound strength and high status in the Tianji Sect. They dare not face Fu Linchen in front of the old man. Of course, for both of them, it was equivalent to avoiding a beating. However, when Li Chuan, who was not far away and had a face full of anger, saw the old man in the white robe, his eyes twitched and he changed his previous surprised expression. He cried with tears and a runny nose, saying, "Elder, that Lin Chen, regardless of his fellow disciples, ruthlessly attacked me and even wanted to kill his disciple here. The sword marks on the disciple's chest can testify, and Wang Lin and Li Liang can also testify. I earnestly request the elder to make the decision. Do you act ruthlessly yourself? Is there any evidence?" Lin Chen sneered coldly. Li Chuan is indeed shameful. He was clearly the one who provoked before, but now he claims to have murdered his fellow disciples. Upon hearing this, two of Li Chuan's attendants on the side were momentarily taken aback and their eyes flashed with a sudden expression. One of them sneered and shouted, "Elder, disciple Wang Lin can testify that it was Chuan Gu who was injured by Lin Chen." Yes, disciple Li Liang can also testify. If it weren't for Wang Lin and me blocking with all our might just now, I'm afraid brother Chuan would have been killed here by Lin Chen. Is this really true? Upon hearing Li Chuan's words, the old man in white robe's face darkened. The rules of the Tianji sect were very clear, and disciples should not kill each other. And now there are even disciples who know the law and break it. It's really audacious. Returning to elder, this matter was provoked by Li Chuan and his three companions first, and Li Chuan was also the one who took the initiative. The disciples were only protecting themselves. The reason for injuring Li Chuan was because I had just learned the 7-star chain sword and did not grasp its power. When I drew the sword, I accidentally injured him, Lin Chen said with a slight bow, his face unchanged. You're lying. Elder, Lin Chen's words are not trustworthy. Previously, he took advantage of his disciples' lack of attention and suddenly released a sword energy that was nearly 1 meter long. It's not like he didn't grasp the power, I think it was intentional. Li Chuan shouted and retorted, suddenly releasing a 1 meter long sword aura. Upon hearing their words, the old man in the white robe did not scold Lin Chen as loudly as Li Chuan had expected. Instead, his face became somewhat surprised. Lin Chen, did you really excel in cultivating the 7-star chain sword? Lin Chen nodded and said, just finished practicing. Practice it again and show it to me. There was a hint of impatience in the tone of the old man in the white robe. Yes. Lin Chen smiled calmly and with a clang, the refined steel sword unsheathed and took a step forward. He held the sword in his right hand and thrust it obliquely. In an instant, sword light surged in the field. When he reached the 7th move, a nearly 1 meter long sword energy shot out from the refined steel sword, soaring into the sky, startling Li Chuan and the others. Standing with his sword drawn, Lin Chen's face remained unchanged, as if he had never moved. Good and good, it's really surprising. Although this swordsmanship is only at the middle level of the yellow level, the difficulty of cultivation is no less than that of the top-level martial arts skills of the yellow level. For years, no one has practiced the 7th move, and I didn't expect you to do it. Seeing this situation, the old man in the white robe burst into laughter, with an indescribable expression of joy. He nodded in appreciation and said, anyone who can practice this 7th style is undoubtedly talented and gorgeous. You used to have mediocre talent, but unexpectedly, you have accumulated a wealth of knowledge and suddenly enlightened. It seems that you are also a good seedling. If you have any problems in the future, feel free to come to me. Thank you very much, Elder. I will definitely remember Elder's teachings. Lin Chen nodded humbly before continuing, Elder, I have one more thing to report to you. Well, let me know if you have anything to say. The old man in the white robe nodded and glanced at Li Chuan unintentionally. However, seeing Li Chuan's flustered appearance, he suddenly snorted coldly and felt a concern in his heart. A few days ago, when a disciple was receiving the Peiyuan liquid distributed by the sect, he was ambushed by Li Chuan and others, and they snatched the disciple's Peiyuan liquid. Originally, I wanted to spare people, but unfortunately, they were aggressive and falsely accused the disciple, hoping that the elder would make the decision. Lin Chen paused and said calmly, "You're talking nonsense." Just as Lin Chen spoke, Li Chuan beside him roared angrily, "You shut up." The old man in the white robe's face darkened and he whispered. Li Chuan's body trembled and he almost fell to the ground. The old man in the white robe was the guardian of the library of the Tianji Sect, with a deep cultivation level, at least above the heavenly gang realm. If he were to become angry, his momentum alone would not be able to withstand Li Chuan, a 5th-level martial artist in the cultivation realm. The old man in the white robe saw Li Chuan's cowardly appearance and his face became even worse. He snorted coldly and said with a hint of resentment, "Li Chuan, how long do you want to hide it?" "Brother, I understand my mistake." Upon hearing the words of the old man in the white robe, Li Chuan's face immediately turned even paler, and he knelt down trembling on both knees. "Humph, you 3 acted against your fellow disciples and falsely accused them. According to the rules of the sect, you should go to the punishment hall to receive the punishment of 100 black iron sticks. However, I believe you are the first offenders, so I will punish you 3 with 300 lower-grade spirit stones to compensate Lin Chen. Do you accept it?" The old man in the white robe snorted with an unpleasant expression. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Selection of Martial Arts Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Selection of Martial Arts Skills. Upon hearing these words, Li Chuan and his companions turned extremely pale. Lingxi is a type of stone that contains rich spiritual energy, which can be used for trading or cultivation. It can be classified into lower grade, medium grade, upper grade, and top grade. The source of obtaining spiritual stones for disciples of Tianji Sect is usually for completing sect tasks, and the 300 lower grade spiritual stones can allow external disciples to complete tasks for several months in a row, which makes Li Chuan and the 3 of them suffer from physical pain. I happen to lack some spirit stones to purchase elixirs, so I have no objection. Lin Chen nodded as he saw the old man in the white robe looking at him. Lin Chen's predecessor, who struggled to earn contribution points, only had dozens of inferior spirit stones on his body, which were not enough to purchase elixirs. Coincidentally, Lin Chen urgently needed elixirs to assist in cultivation and improve his cultivation. Now, the elder of the pavilion is punishing Li Chuan with 300 inferior spirit stones as compensation, so Lin Chen naturally has no objections. Upon hearing Lin Chen's words, Li Chuan's mouth twitched fiercely and his eyes turned black, almost fainting. He glared at Lin Chen with hatred in his eyes and gritted his teeth, saying, "I will be punished." Then he took out an antique ring from his pocket and handed it to Lin Chen with a heart full of unwillingness. This ring, named Na Jie, is engraved with a secret technique. It has a storage space of 1 cubic meter, which is too small and easy to make. It is not very precious, and many disciples from outside have spare parts. Lin Chen took it over and scanned it with his consciousness. He saw that there were exactly 300 inferior spirit stones inside, so he nodded slightly. Seeing this situation, Li Chuan couldn't help but glare at Lin Chen with resentment. After bowing to the old man in a white robe, the three of them helped each other and walked towards the distance unwillingly. As soon as Li Chuan and his companions left, they saw two 16 or 17-year-old disciples walking out of the library, whispering to each other. "Brother Wang, I heard that you did a sect mission a few days ago and earned over 30 contribution points," said a tall and thin disciple with envy. "Ha, I'm also lucky. If it weren't for senior brother Tian taking care of me, I wouldn't have been able to complete that task." "Hey, brother Zhu, you're 16 years old this year. You should have made up for all the 1,000 contribution points you've exchanged for in the Tianluo Mountain secret realm, right?" Senior brother Wang burst out laughing. "Until now, I have only managed to gather less than 500 contribution points. It's a long time since I reached 1,000 contribution points, but it's actually brother Wang. There should be about 1,000 contribution points now, right?" With brother Wang's strength, breaking through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm is not a problem at all. "When brother Wang enters the inner gate, I hope you can take care of your junior brother more," said the disciple surnamed Zhu in a frustrated tone, but also somewhat flattered. "It's easy to say, you've also helped me a lot during this period. As long as I enter the inner door, I won't refuse your help if I can." With a reserved voice, the two of them suddenly saw the old man in a white robe next to Lin Chen, with a stern expression. They respectfully said, "Disciple Wang Yifan pays respects to the elder. Disciple Zhu Feng pays respects to the elder." The two of them looked respectful, as if they were in awe of the old man in the white robe. At the same time, they looked at Lin Chen a few times, clearly wondering how an external disciple at the fourth peak of the cultivation realm could walk with the elder of the library guard. "Well, let's go." The old man in the white robe nodded lightly. "I'm leaving, disciple." The two of them respectfully announced their retreat and took a deep look at Lin Chen before heading towards the distance together. Lin Chen stood beside the old man in the white robe, motionless but somewhat silent. "In only 3 months, I have been exploring the Tianluo Mountain secret realm, and my contribution points are less than 150. I am still more than halfway away from exchanging 500 contribution points for a chance to explore the Tianluo Mountain secret realm." Thinking of this, Lin Chen clenched his fist hard and fixed his gaze on the library behind the old man in the white robe. He must improve his strength as soon as possible and earn contribution points. "Lin Chen, relying solely on the 7-star chain sword, you still have some difficulties in breaking through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. Are you here this time to choose martial arts secret books from the library?" The old man in the white robe noticed Lin Chen's change and suddenly said, "Yes, my disciple also thinks the same way, so I want to go to the library to choose the martial arts skills that suit me and improve my strength." However, external disciples can only choose yellow level low.level and mid-level martial arts. Yellow level high.level, top level, and ground level low.level martial arts require 500, 800, and 1200 contribution points to exchange, respectively. Do you want to exchange martial arts, or choose yellow level low.level or mid-level martial arts? The old man in the white robe smiled. Exchange contribution points for martial arts skills. He is still trying to find a way to raise 500 contribution points to exchange for the opportunity to enter the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. Where is there any extra to exchange for martial arts skills? Lin Chen took a deep breath and said with a bitter smile, "I will choose a yellow level mid-level martial arts skill." "Oh, that's good. There are also many powerful mid-level martial arts skills at the yellow level, come with me." The old man in the white robe was taken aback and immediately understood that Lin Chen might not have any extra contribution points on him, so he nodded and walked towards the library. The first floor of the library. Lingxi Fist is a mid-level martial arts skill at the yellow level, which has been cultivated to a great extent. Its two fists can be as agile as a Lingxi, and its attacks are eerie and elusive. Between the third and fourth rows of bookshelves, Lin Chen held a book of more than 10 pages in both hands, frowning and saying, "This attack method of Lingxi Fist is not suitable for me. Abandon it." Gale Palm, a yellow-level mid-level martial arts skill, can be mastered to perfection. With one palm, it can unleash heat waves and strong winds, with unparalleled power. Qingyun Step, yellow-level medium-level body method. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Phantom Sword Secret Classic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Phantom Sword Secret Classic. Half an hour later, Lin Chen lifted his head and glanced at more than 10 books scattered on the ground, his eyes slightly burning. These more than 10 martial arts books were carefully selected by him, and any one of them, once cultivated to a great extent, is incredibly powerful. Although Lin Chen wanted to borrow all these books back, he also knew the truth that too much can't be chewed. Moreover, the sect did not allow him to borrow so many books at once. Lin Chen took a deep breath and looked at a book of more than 20 pages in his right hand. He thought to himself, "My internal mental skill is an internal skill of the family. The Huang level high-level Qingming Xianyang skill does not need to be changed for now. I will choose the Qingyun step as my body martial arts skill. When practicing the Qingyun step to the fullest extent, it can advance up to 100 meters with just one sweep. Among the Huang level intermediate level body martial arts skills, it is considered very good. As for attack martial arts, 3 months later, I will be exploring the Tianluo Mountain secret realm, so I should choose the martial arts that are most suitable for me and can maximize my strength." After thinking about it, he crouched down and began to choose the most suitable book from these dozens of books. However, as soon as he squatted down, he saw a book with a yellow title page quietly placed in the bottom corner of the fourth row bookshelf, which looked somewhat antique. The books here have all been refurbished by disciples, so there shouldn't be books with yellowed front pages. Lin Chen was taken aback and reached out to take out the book with yellowed front pages from the bottom shelf. The book is somewhat outdated and looks like an antique. On the title page of the book, there is also a lot of dust accumulated, which should have been left untouched for a long time. In addition, this book is very thin, with only a few pages, completely different from other 10 or even dozens of pages of martial arts books. Lin Chen was even more curious in his heart. He glanced at it and then opened the first page of the book, where 2 big characters appeared in front of him. Phantom Sword. Beside these 2 large characters, there are also a large number of small characters, as well as a few mental skill maps. He became patient and carefully read through the first page of the book. After about a quarter of an hour, Lin Chen finally looked up with a look of ecstasy on his face. This swordsmanship is actually the top-level martial arts skill at the yellow level. In theory, the yellow-level top-level martial arts skills should not appear on the first floor of the library. But this martial arts skill was created by an elder who devoted his whole life to it at the beginning of the Tianji Sect. At the end of his life, the elder made a request to the sect leader, hoping that the martial arts skill he created himself could be provided free of charge to the entire Tianji Sect disciples, whether they were from external or internal sects, and all disciples could cultivate it. So, the sword technique created by this elder with his lifelong effort has been passed down. This is the scene where Lin Chen obtained this sword manual. But because this martial arts attack method is extremely strange and the cultivation difficulty is extremely high, few disciples have practiced this martial arts skill for thousands of years, and among the disciples who choose to cultivate, very few can successfully cultivate it. Over time, this illusion sword is almost ignored. This martial arts skill is placed on the top level of the yellow level martial arts level, and there must be its strength. Other disciples cannot practice it, but it does not mean that I cannot either. Moreover, This martial arts skill is quite similar to the Misty Fist I practiced in my previous life, so I will practice this sword technique. Lin Chen laughed out loud, picked up Qingyun's step and this illusionary sword manual, and walked towards the entrance of the library. Upon arriving at the door, the old man in a white robe saw that Lin Chen had chosen the phantom sword. He was taken aback and said, "Lin Chen, this phantom sword is indeed a yellow-level top-level martial arts skill, but the difficulty of cultivating this sword technique is so high that it can almost rival the low-level martial arts skills of the Xian level. Are you sure you want to choose this martial arts skill?" Lin Chen nodded slightly and saw the situation. The old man in the white robe shook his head and said, "Lin Chen, you haven't been in the sect for long and may not be clear about it. There are also disciples in the front door who practice this illusion sword because it is a yellow-level top-level martial arts skill, but the result is a waste of a lot of time and energy. There is nothing to be gained, and we have to spend more time practicing other martial arts skills. And just because you can practice the 7-star chain sword doesn't mean you can master this phantom sword." The old man in the white robe paused and advised, "I'm telling you these things, just hoping that you give up practicing this martial arts skill to avoid repeating the same mistake. Do you understand?" "Thank you for your kindness, Elder." "I understand what Elder said, but I don't want to regret it either. Moreover, I have confidence in practicing this swordsmanship," Lin Chen said with a smile and a calm expression. Although Lin Chen didn't know how difficult it was to practice this magic sword, he had full confidence in himself. In his past life, he became a martial arts master at a young age, relying on hard work and practice, as well as his outstanding martial arts talent. Although he has traveled to this world, Lin Chen believes that his exceptional understanding in martial arts will not change in any way. No matter how difficult it is to practice, he still needs to give it a try. The old man in the white robe shook his head upon hearing this, sighed, and said, "Which of the disciples who used to practice this swordsmanship were not confident enough and still achieved nothing in the end? However, since you have made a choice, I won't go into further detail." Lin Chen knew that the old man in the white robe still didn't believe he could master the illusion sword, but he didn't want to say much. After thanking him, he turned his head and walked towards the door. Returning to the cabin, Lin Chen plunged into 2 secret books and carefully studied them. Time flies by in a hurry. 3 days later. In the yard. Lin Chen stood quietly with a precision steel sword in his hand. Suddenly, he took a step and the precision steel sword in his hand moved with it, piercing forward at an extremely fast speed. Gradually, he swung his sword faster and faster, and finally several sword shadows appeared in front of him. These shadows quickly swept forward, and at the same time, they attacked a huge rock with a loud bang, causing it to shatter. Seeing this situation, Lin Chen's face lit up slightly and he said, "The most powerful thing about this magic sword is its extremely fast attack speed. At this speed, it leaves remnants in the air, making it difficult for the enemy to figure out where and when the real attack will occur. This is similar to my previous life's practice of lost fist. Lin Chen had a rich knowledge of martial arts in his previous life, and had a good understanding of various martial arts. However, the attack method of this phantom sword was similar to that of the mist fist, which was considered extremely difficult to cultivate by others. In Lin Chen's hands, the phantom sword appeared much simpler. However, this magic sword is also quite mysterious, and its mental operation method is completely different from ordinary martial arts. It took Lin Chen 3 days to understand the mystery of this mental operation method and finally practice it. Lin Chen took a slight breath, withdrew his sword and stood still. He followed his lucky steps and ran forward. After taking a breath, he saw his body appear 60 meters away. De Cheng's Qingyun step, a sweep of 100 meters, I am now using the Qingyun step. With a sweep, I can move forward 60 meters, which is already the realm of Xiaocheng. The importance of body techniques is self-evident. They can be attacked and defended, and are a life-saving skill. During the past 3 days, Lin Chen has been specializing in the study of Phantom Sword, but he has never fallen behind in the cultivation of Qingyun Step. In 3 days, Lin Chen not only achieved a small success in practicing the Qingyun Step, but also successfully mastered the illusionary sword, which was difficult to defeat countless disciples. With such speed, looking at the entire outer gate of the Tianji Sect, there are definitely few enemies. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Xiaoding Effect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Xiaoding Effect. Lin Chen frowned slightly and said, "But now it's less than 3 months before I can break through the Tianluo Mountain's secret realm, and my contribution points are only 133. With my current strength, it may be a bit difficult to raise more than 300 contribution points within 3 months. Moreover, breaking through the Tianluo Mountain secret realm itself requires extraordinary strength. I can't handle so much anymore. The top priority is to gather the insufficient contribution points and go to the task hall tomorrow morning to pick up the task." With a determined heart, Lin Chen continued to practice the first move of the Phantom Sword in the yard. In the evening, Lin Chen, who had been washed, sat cross-legged on the bed, quietly looking at the 2 crystal bottles in his hand that were half the size of a palm. Through the crystal bottles, he could clearly see a small half-bottle of light green liquid flowing inside. Lin Chen remained silent for a moment, then suddenly reached out and opened the cap of one of the bottles. Suddenly, a strong and faint fragrance filled the entire room. What a rich spiritual energy! Lin Chen was surprised in his heart. Before opening the bottle cap, he had anticipated that there would be spiritual energy contained in it, but he did not expect that the spiritual energy in this Peiyuan liquid would be so strong. You should know that at this moment, the entire room was covered by this fragrance. Taking a slight breath would make him feel that spiritual energy was being sucked into his stomach. After thinking for a moment, Lin Chen opened his mouth and took a light drink. Suddenly, a cold liquid slid into his stomach, like cold water in winter. After finishing this, Lin Chen immediately closed his eyes tightly. His true qi slowly followed the Qingming Xianyang Gong to perform the Great Zhou heavenly movement, flowing from the dantian to his limbs and bones. The parts of his body where the true qi passed through, Lin Chen felt a slight warmth and incomparable warmth. Qingming Xianyang Gong is a high-level martial arts skill at the yellow level. Practitioners can continuously carry out the Great Zhou Tian cycle. With each cycle of the Great Zhou Tian cycle, they can absorb a trace of heaven and earth spiritual energy, transform it into their own use, and convert it into the martial artist's dantian true energy. However, for martial artists, taking elixirs for cultivation is simpler than absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. They only need to directly guide their true qi to transform and refine the elixirs they have swallowed. Just before Lin Chen could start refining the Peiyuan liquid he had swallowed, a strong suction force suddenly came to his mind, quickly absorbing the Peiyuan liquid he had swallowed. What's going on? The sudden change startled Lin Chen. How can there be a pulling force in my mind? Lin Chen's eyebrows jumped slightly, took a deep breath, and then mobilized his mind to check his mind. However, he saw that the small tripod in his mind was quickly absorbing the Peiyuan liquid he had swallowed. The Peiyuan liquid was completely absorbed within a short period of time. How could it be like this? Little Ding in my mind actually absorbed all the Peiyuan liquid. For a moment, Lin Chen's face changed and became restless. Xiaoding will suck away the Peiyuan liquid he has swallowed, and will he also suck away any pills he has swallowed in the future? If that's the case, wouldn't it be impossible for oneself to use elixirs to assist in cultivation in the future? The cultivation speed without pill assistance is much slower than that with pill assistance. Lin Chen's face was a bit gloomy, and his thoughts moved again, turning to the small cauldron in his mind. However, at this moment, he saw a small and pure spiritual energy suddenly spewing out from the cauldron. This. Lin Chen's eyes widened. Unable to think much, Lin Chen quickly used the Qingming Xianyang Gong to quickly refine the spiritual energy emitted by the small cauldron. A big Sunday cycle. 2 major Sunday cycles. After completing the 6th cycle of the Great Zhou Tian, Lin Chen slowly guided the true qi in his body back to the Dantian. Lin Chen took a deep breath and a surprised expression appeared on his face. What a rich and pure spiritual energy. My predecessor used to take a bottle of Peiyuan liquid and only completed 12 cycles of the Great Zhou Tian cycle. However, the amount of spiritual energy sprayed out by the refining cauldron was not large, but it allowed me to do 6 cycles of the Great Zhou Tian cycle. Such a rich and pure spiritual energy is probably only comparable to top-grade Peiyuan liquid. In Lin Chen's memory, a bottle of top-grade Peiyuan liquid is already priceless, and the top-grade Peiyuan liquid is rare to see in 100 years. However, the spiritual energy emitted by the small cauldron can rival the spiritual energy in the top-grade Peiyuan liquid. However, how could Xiaoding suddenly emit such a rich and pure spiritual energy? Perhaps it was Xiaoding who absorbed the Peiyuan liquid I swallowed, and then. Lin Chen pondered for a moment, then suddenly reached out and picked up a bottle of Peiyuan liquid to take a sip, before continuing to sit cross-legged. At the same time, he mobilized his mind and stared at the small cauldron in his mind without blinking. After a short moment, Lin Chen saw a strong suction force emanating from the small cauldron, and in the blink of an eye, he absorbed all the Peiyuan liquid he had swallowed. After another moment, a strong and pure spiritual energy suddenly erupted from the small cauldron. I didn't expect the small cauldron in my mind to have this effect. Seeing this situation, Lin Chen showed a hint of excitement. Just now he guessed that Xiaoding had absorbed the Peiyuan liquid he had swallowed, purified it, and sprayed out a rich and pure spiritual energy. And the results of his experiment just now undoubtedly confirmed his speculation. After 6 cycles of the Great Zhou Tian cycle, Lin Chen's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. The Peiyuan liquid purified by Xiaoding contains spiritual energy that is at least tens of times stronger than the unpurified Peiyuan liquid. Lin Chen's eyes burst into a burst of light, which means that a bottle of inferior Peiyuan liquid, after being purified by Xiaoding, can at least match the efficacy of a bottle of top-grade Peiyuan liquid. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Realm of Refining Marrow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Realm of Refining Marrow. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Lin Chen pondered for a moment. After a moment, he raised his eyebrows and muttered to himself, the little cauldron in my mind may have more than just one effect. Lin Chen has not yet figured out the secret of Xiaoding, but he believes that one day he will figure it out. Without much thought, Lin Chen immediately closed his eyes and looked inside, feeling a joyful feeling that had just been purified by the small cauldron and integrated into the true qi flow in his dantian. Lin Chen felt it carefully, but saw that the true energy in his dantian had grown significantly, and even faintly visible, with strands of true energy entering the bone marrow through the bones. Seeing this situation, Lin Chen was delighted. The body refining realm was divided into 9 levels, with the 4th level being bone refining and the 5th level being marrow refining. The sign of entering the 5th level of body refining realm was the entry of true qi into the marrow. By this calculation, I can also be considered a martial artist who has half-stepped into the 5th level of the cultivation realm. Perhaps. It is not impossible to break through to the 5th level of the cultivation realm tonight. Thinking of this, Lin Chen glanced at another bottle of Peiyuan liquid beside him. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and joyfully grabbed the other bottle of Peiyuan liquid beside him, opening his mouth and drinking it all. Then he sat cross-legged, his eyes slightly closed, motionless. Time passes by minute by second. Half an hour later. Lin Chen, sitting cross-legged on the bed, suddenly burst out with a fierce aura. A more mellow true qi surged out of his body, transforming into a large amount of mist that enveloped the entire cabin, like a sea of clouds. In addition, a large amount of black substance was secreted from his skin, a kind of itching that penetrated his heart like ants tearing at the bone marrow, making his face slightly unnatural. After another moment, Lin Chen suddenly opened his eyes and let out a joyful roar, as if trying to release the joy in his heart. Breakthrough, the 5th level of body refining realm, the realm of refining marrow. Lin Chen's face lit up with joy. As far as I know, at this stage of my cultivation, even the most talented disciple would need at least 1 or 2 months to improve their cultivation level. However, I only managed to improve 2 levels in 3 days. If they knew about my cultivation speed, they wouldn't be surprised. Lin Chen was in a happy mood and went to the yard to wash his body with cold water before returning to the small house to sleep sweetly. The second day. Lin Chen got up early in the morning, collected some essential items, and walked towards a small market at the foot of the mountain. Lin Chen originally planned to go to the task hall today to collect the task and earn contribution points. But now that he knows that the small cauldron in his mind can purify the essence of pills, he can't waste this effect. So Lin Chen changed his mind and went to the market first to buy some pills for strengthening the foundation and improving the cultivation. Fortunately, I got 300 lower-grade spirit stones from Li Chuan and the others, otherwise I might not even have the spirit stones to purchase elixirs. Lin Chen thought to himself and quickened his pace. At the same time, in the library halfway up the mountain, with his eyes slightly closed, the old man in a white robe guarding the library suddenly opened his eyes and looked at a 14-year-old girl in front of him with a faint smile. However, the young girl had an angry expression, holding a sword in her hand. When she saw the old man in the white robe smiling and looking over, she pouted and said, "Second grandpa, I don't want to practice this swordsmanship anymore." "Huh, Yunner, I think this 7-star chain sword is pretty good. Why don't you want to practice it?" The old man in the white robe laughed out loud when he saw the young girl's pitiful and lovely appearance. "Second grandpa, you haven't practiced it before. How do you know this swordsmanship is good? And you don't know how difficult it is to practice. For over half a month, I have been studying and practicing hard every day, but I haven't learned the 7th move yet. I doubt if I can even practice the 7th move." The young girl Yunner snorted angrily. Half a month ago, the old man in the white robe handed over the 7-star chain sword to the young girl, who also had a good martial arts talent. In less than half a month, he learned the first 6 moves of the 7-star chain sword, but he never succeeded in practicing the 7th move. Under the girl's embarrassment and anger, the scene of questioning the old man in the white robe occurred. "Your current cultivation level is already in the early stage of the heavenly gang realm, and your martial arts talent is far beyond that of ordinary people. I thought you should be able to understand the 7th move of this 7-star chain sword. However, you don't have to be discouraged. To be honest with you, little girl, I also practiced this 7-star chain sword back then. I was stuck in the 7th move for over 3 months and couldn't break through, so I switched to other sword techniques." "What? Second grandpa, have you really practiced this swordsmanship before? And haven't you been able to do it?" The girl looked surprised. She knew the strength of the old man in the white robe in front of her very well, and even he couldn't resist this swordsmanship. "Hee, this is not a glorious thing. How could I deceive you, little girl?" The old man in the white robe smiled. "Humph." The girl was a bit dissatisfied. "Even second grandpa, you couldn't practice and asked me to do it. Isn't this a deliberate joke to see me?" The old man in the white robe shook his head slowly and said, "Among the swordsmanship of the same level, the power of this 7-star chain sword is quite great, so many disciples who practice swordsmanship will choose to try it. However, there are very few people who can practice the 7th move. I thought you, a little girl, could practice it, so let you try it. But it's not a big deal if you can't practice it, there will be a more suitable swordsmanship for you. I guess no one can even practice this swordsmanship, it's really too difficult," the girl pouted. "You little girl," the old man in the white robe looked at the girl with some helplessness. "A few days ago, I saw an external disciple at the fourth peak of the body refining realm. Not only did he master this sword technique, but he also used it to defeat 3 disciples with higher cultivation than him. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Procurement of Medicinal Materials. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Procurement of Medicinal Materials. How could it be? The girl glared and refused. I didn't even achieve my initial cultivation in the heavenly gang realm. He only reached the 4th peak of his physical cultivation and even defeated 3 disciples with higher cultivation than him. The old man in the white robe nodded and said, although that kid has average talent, he has a lot of perseverance. He has been practicing the 7-star chain sword for over a year now, and finally succeeded in breaking through a few days ago. However, that kid came to me a few days ago to choose the phantom sword, and he was a bit ambitious. Although I don't know how he became the 7th sword, I'm afraid he had some luck in it. Now that he wants to cultivate the most difficult phantom sword, he's just asking for trouble, which may affect his future cultivation. The old man in the white robe shook his head and sighed. The girl shook her head and turned her eyebrows and eyes, saying, Second Grandpa, if he can practice the 7-star chain sword, it may not be impossible for him to become a phantom sword. Well, what you're saying makes sense, the old man in the white robe pondered. With that kid's perseverance, it's not necessarily impossible to succeed. Some people may be born to gnaw on hard bones. Second Grandpa, what is the name of this guy you're talking about? The girl asked curiously. His name is Lin Chen, said the old man in a white robe with a smile. He has been a disciple of the Tianji Sect for over a year now and is still just an outsider. However, I have a feeling that he should not be limited to outsiders. If he can really practice the illusionary sword, he will definitely have some achievements in the future. Oh, I know. The girl immediately reached out and picked up her sword, quickly walking towards the door. The old man in the white robe saw this and shook his head with a smile, saying, Yunner, go back and work hard to cultivate. Although you haven't been able to cultivate the 7-star chain sword, it's not a big deal. Your cultivation level is still a bit too low. I hope you can become the younger generation of disciples of our Tianji Sect who support our appearance. I know Grandpa Air, I'll go to the market first. Goodbye Grandpa Air. The girl named Yunner seemed to be unable to bear the old man's nagging and said without looking back, accelerating her pace and running down the mountain. The old man in the white robe smiled at the words and shook his head, muttering to himself, Yunner, if she were willing to practice well, with her qualifications and talents, her cultivation would probably have reached the late stage of the heavenly gang realm. This girl is just playful. Lin Chen arrived at the market and saw a bustling crowd, with countless people shuttling back and forth. Among them were not only disciples of the Tianji Sect, but also many scattered cultivators, creating a lively atmosphere. Lin Chen didn't look around, but went straight to a shop called Tianji Sect Pharmacy. In Lin Chen's memory, the reputation of this pill shop is very good, and the pills are also very complete. He used to come here often to stroll, but didn't have much money to buy. Entering the store, even when a young maid greeted Lin Chen, she immediately smiled and said, Young master, we have the most suitable qi-gathering pills and Lingyuan pills for martial artists in the body refining realm to cultivate, detoxifying pills and healing pills for unexpected missions, and heart-protecting pills to prevent heart demons. What kind of pills do you need, young master? Lin Chen had already been calculating in his heart. Upon hearing this, he lightly touched the ring in his hand and said, Give me 10 Lingyuan pills, 5 qi-gathering pills, 3 antidote pills, and 3 golden wound medicine each. These pills are the most suitable for him to cultivate at this stage. Lingyuan pill and Juki pill are used to assist in cultivation, but Juki pill has better effects. He purchased detoxification pills and golden wound medicine to prepare for missions outside. The maid was taken aback by the words and looked at Lin Chen with suspicion. She hesitated and said, Young master, 10 Lingyuan pills are worth 60 lower-grade spirit stones, 5 Juki pills are worth 100 lower-grade spirit stones, and detoxification pills and healing pills are worth a total of 20 lower-grade spirit stones. All of them add up to 180 lower-grade spirit stones. Are you sure you want them, young master? Looking at the maid's gaze, Lin Chen was also slightly taken aback. Why did he come to buy things on his own, and the other party seemed to be hesitant? However, Lin Chen also looked up and down at himself, and suddenly understood the other person's meaning. Although Lin Chen is a descendant of a noble family, his wealth is not very rich because he is obsessed with practicing martial arts and saves some money for cultivation. He doesn't care about external things, so he looks relatively shabby wearing clothes. Moreover, his cultivation level was not high, and he immediately demanded a pill worth 180 spiritual stones. The maid couldn't help but ask, because at first glance, Lin Chen didn't seem like the master who could produce such a large amount of spiritual stones. Lin Chen didn't mind either. With a wave of his hand, he took out 200 inferior spirit stones and placed them on the counter, shining brightly. He smiled and said, "There won't be any shortage of spirit stones. Just go and get them. Also, get me 10 bottles of Peiyuan liquid, hurry up." 10 bottles of Peiyuan liquid. The maid saw the spirit stone that Lin Chen had taken out and understood that she had misread it. In front of her was a wealthy master. However, although she is young, she is also quite experienced, with a hint of a smile on her face and a hint of apology, saying, "Young master, please wait a moment. I will go and get the pill for you now." After finishing speaking, the maid turned around and ran all the way to the rear to get the elixir. She completed this transaction of 200 lower-grade spirit stones, and her commission was quite high. End of this chapter.